many school-to-home educational opportunities to help children bridge the math we are learning in the classroom to make connections in the real world. In the classroom, students explore operations with fractions through problem solving. At home, families can extend this experience to daily routines like preparing meals, engaging in measurement and construction activities, handling shopping and finances, and practicing effective time management. For example, introduce a fraction scavenger hunt that blends real-world exploration and math concepts. Start by listing common household items divisible into halves, quarters, or eighths, such as pizza, sandwiches, or brownies. Encourage students to involve family members in the hunt, capturing items through pictures or drawings. After the scavenger hunt, initiate a discussion where students share their findings, exploring the fractions represented in each item. This engaging activity reinforces fractional understanding and fosters family involvement and hands-on learning, connecting math to the real world for an enjoyable and meaningful experience. Families can also engage in fraction recipe challenge by selecting recipes such as pancakes, cookies, or muffins to prepare together. During the cooking process, have discussions about ingredient measurements, emphasizing the use of halves, fourths, and eighths.
Before we get into making these cookies, let's check out this recipe that I have for us. Okay, so if I were to ask you by looking at this recipe, how much granulated sugar does this recipe call for?
A half a cup.
Okay, a half a cup. So what I want you to do now, let's take a look at the recipe and let's see how much brown sugar we need.
1/4 cup.
Okay, pick out that cup. Ah, good. Okay, so I want us to start with this little question here. It says, how much more granulated sugar is needed than brown sugar? And how much granulated sugar do we need?
1/2 cup.
Okay, here you go. Dip you out some sugar. Alrighty. Now let's look to see how much brown sugar is needed.
1/4 cup.
Okay, so get you some of that. All right, so let's compare. How many of these will it take to fill this?
2.
2? How do you know that?
Because 1/4 is half of, or 4 is half of 2.
Ah, okay. Let's see if it takes 2 1/4 cups to make that half. Oh, you're good. Did it work?
Uh-huh.
Very good. How much brown sugar is needed to make 3 batches? So how would you go about solving this if we wanted to make 3 batches?
1/4 times 3.
1/4 times 3. What do you think the answer would be?
3/4.
3/4? Okay, let's try it out and see if you're right. Okay. So if I already have a half in here, how much more do I need?
1/4.
All right. Thinking about the math that you just did to make 3 batches, how much brown sugar would it take to make 6 batches?
We can add 3/4.
Okay.
Two. 3.
Encourage family members to actively participate in measuring and calculating the total fractional amount of each ingredient listed in the recipe. Take the challenge a step further by discussing and calculating the fractions for multiple batches of the chosen recipe. This educational activity not only enhances understanding of fractions, but also creates a fun and delicious family cooking experience.
How much flour is needed to make 3 batches of cookies? So let's go back to the recipe here. So how much flour does it take to make 1 batch?
1 3/4.
1 3/4. What are you going to choose to start measuring?
You would do 1, and then you would do we could do one of these and one of these.
So let's look at those measurements. So you would do
one
one
cup and 1/2 cup and 1/4 cup.
Okay, good job. So you ready to dip? Okay, let's see what it would look like for one batch. Go ahead. What did you just place in there?
A cup.
Okay, so how much now?
1 and 1/2.
Okay.
And that one was 1/4.
And so total you have
Of 1 3/4.
1 3/4. Good job. Okay, so let's write down how much flour we need for one batch. I see you've written down 1 3/4. So how much for two batches?
So you would 1 plus 1 is 2. 3 plus 3 is 6. And you don't change the 4. Because the denominator never changes.
Okay, so I see your answer here. Okay, is this fraction written in such a way that I could use a measuring cup? Or is there something I could do to this fraction to make it my real world where I could use a measuring cup?
We can make it into a real world problem.
Okay, so let me see you do that. Can you do that?
3 2/4, which is also 3 and 1/2.
Good job. So you can write that down as well. All right, way to go. Okay, so we're at 2 batches. So we want to make 3 batches. What would you do next?
You can add it one more time.
1 3/4 for one batch, 3 2/4 for,
2 batches.
and then do you have a fraction on your paper that represents one batch?
1 3/4.
Oh, okay. So if I wanted to make 3 batches, what would you do?
Oh, you would add 3 2/4 to 1 3/4.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and do that.
So we would add the 3 and the 1 together, which would equal 4. And the 2 and the 3 together, which would equal 5. And the 4, you don't add it, it stays the same because it's the denominator. And you can simplify that, and it could be 5 and 1/4.
Very good. 5 1/4.
Cups of all-purpose flour.
Okay, and we'll get these back. Okay, and you know that it would take 5 1/4. Which cups would you use to get those measurements?
You would use this cup 5 times and 1/4 cup.
How many of these 1 cups would you use?
5,
How many of these 1/4 cups would you use?
1.
How much flour is needed for 6 batches of cookies?
And you can multiply that by 2.
Okay, could you do that? Okay, go ahead.
5 and 1/4 plus 5 and 1/4, which is, you can add that together and you would get 10 and 2/4,
Very good.
which is, you can simplify that and it would be 10 and 1/2.
Perfect. Good job. Are you ready to go bake some cookies now that we understand the recipe? Okay, let's go.
Whether you notice the highway sign announcing that your exit is 3/4 of a mile away, or that the milk jug is already half empty or still half full, fractions are all around us. The more we notice, discuss, and problem solve with fractions, the more comfortable, flexible, and ultimately successful we will be.